it makes us think about the fact that we don't want to just defend these tag team championships at Hell in a Cell. We want to defend our WWE World Tag Team Championships inside.
Oh, yes! Oh, yeah!
Hell in a Cell!
Yeah! It's real, sucker! It's real, baby!
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spencer.
I'm down since
day one-ish.
And we are on episode 2 of season 2 of Last Match Standing. Hey, we didn't mention this last week, but how about that new intro we got going on? Dustin, the man right there.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I really like it.
It's warm.
I think we're just going to get progressively heavier each season, so just expect some blast beats and some pig squeals on season 3.
Eventually, it'll just be a big wall of static. It'll be great.
I'm looking forward to it. But today, man, this is a really, really fun one. This is our first episode since we have a new number 1.
yes, it is.
Spoilers.
Yeah, sorry.
Came
If
out
you're
last
not
week.
listening in order, apologies. I personally am saddened and a little disappointed moving forward, but it was for the best and on to bigger and better things.
Yes, we hated it, but it needed to be done.
What, are you talking about putting Omega Okada in the number 1 spot? You're disappointed?
Well, only for my emotional attachments. Because what I did was after we did the season 2 premiere, I went back and I watched Triple H Shawn Michaels because I thought, let's compare. You know what I mean? Like let's go like back to back because Okada Omega was obviously very fresh in my mind, and I watched Triple H Shawn Michaels and I was like, damn. I still really love this. Like, I still really, really love it.
I do, too. I mean, I watched both those matches like 5 times in a row just to, like, okay, am I doing the right thing here? And I'm still confident that I did the right thing.
Right. And the truth is that I completely understand why it had to be done and why it was done. And I ultimately agree with it because the difference between that I have to realize is that our list is not the list of my favorite matches. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? It's the list of the greatest matches of all time.
I mean,
and when you're comparing the two, it makes the most sense.
If this was the list of favorite matches, then Mike Awesome Masao Tanaka would be number 1, followed by like CM Punk, Undertaker, and then Shane and Kurt Angle.
Right, and if it was my favorite matches of all time, 1 through 10 would be kind of similar to what we have already, and then 11 through 100 would be Repo Man matches.
Oh, God. Speaking of Repo Man, you'll hear our thoughts on Repo Man if you listen to Last Mania Standing, where he makes a couple of appearances.
Yeah, and will continue to do so for a while, I believe.
For a while.
How about I love a shameless plug. That was good. It was easy.
I don't think he goes away until like WrestleMania 9.
Well, I hope he never goes away. I love the Repo Man, and I love Axe and Smash and Demolition and everything else.
Barry Darso.
But
I actually got you some of their gear for Christmas, Landon.
Oh, man, I can't wait to try that on in the bedroom. Anyway. Moving on.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to Season 2, Episode 2. We just want to say thank you again for everyone listening. Feel free to share us. Follow us on Twitter at LastMatchCast. If you're new to the show and you have match suggestions, we'd love to hear them. You can email us at lastmatchstanding@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Twitter or Facebook. Any way you want to communicate with us, we are more than happy to do so. Super appreciative for any and all feedback. So yeah, let's get it going. Today we have for you for the second episode in a row here in Season 2 of a new match, so to speak. It's relatively new. This one is from October the 8th, 2017, from the Little Caesars Arena.
I love that so much.
In Detroit, Michigan. It is the SmackDown branded Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. The Usos versus the New Day inside Hell in a Cell for the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Championships.
You know something? CageSideSeats.com polled just over 2,100 people asking them for their pick for match of the night on this SmackDown branded Hell in a Cell. And New Day versus the Usos overwhelmingly beat out people like AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode, Charlotte, Randy Orton. These are the people that were on the card later in that night. I mean, you had, what was it, like AJ Styles had a match versus it was a triple threat match. AJ Styles, Baron Corbin,
and was it Nakamura?
No,
Randy
Ty
Orton.
Dillinger.
Ty Dillinger.
Yeah, what's Ty Dillinger?
Yeah, because listen, the WWE Championship match that night was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Jinder Mahal. So,
oh yeah, the greatest
can't believe.
run in the history of the business.
So we were at an interesting point in time, but the fact that a tag team could go out there and put on the show and beat out guys like Randy Orton and AJ Styles for match of the night is extremely impressive and really important in this time in wrestling, because it really feels like, and I still feel this way in WWE anyway, there's sort of a tag team desert.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the opening match on a card that needed something, and these two tag teams went out and gave us a slugfest.
Well, what I love about this match, and I said this a million times off mic, this is the first time that I can remember since they brought up Hell in a Cell as a yearly thing where it felt like, no, we need this. Because they're coming off of a street fight where it was like, oh, they didn't settle anything in that street fight. It's like, oh, geez, these guys want to kill each other. All right, Hell in a Cell. Not because it's October, because that's the only way you can contain these guys is, fuck it, Hell in a Cell.
Well, and the placement on the card kind of told a story to me. It was, okay, we need to pick some. We know that we maybe have a less than stellar booked card tonight. Let's go out there and put something on that's going to set the pace for the rest of the show. Well, the rest of the show just couldn't keep up.
Right. I mean, you meant it like main event Jinder Mahal, but he can't compete with this.
Right, and the actual main event for the night, if you remember, was a Hell in a Cell match, but it was Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon.
That was the debut of Cammy. Sami Zayn came out to save him when Shane jumped off the cell.
Oh,
and they formed Cammy Tag Team, who was
funny.
the first match back for Daniel Bryan, was against Cammy.
You're absolutely right, at WrestleMania. Okay, good point.
We were there.
We were there.
Just saying.
But you're absolutely right. The rest of the card couldn't really keep up. And Paul, to your point about this being a feud that absolutely deserved to finish inside Hell in a Cell, this is a really great rivalry. And like Landon said, in an era where tag team wrestling isn't really showcased appropriately in the WWE, knowing, of course, that there are other areas and other promotions you can look at to get really quality tag team wrestling, we get it. But in an era where it's not super appreciated in the WWE, this is probably the best rivalry of tag teams of this decade.
Oh yeah.
As 2019 comes to an end, but probably I can't remember really the last time where there was a rivalry this good between two tag teams.
Well, not for tag teams, no. Especially where something I love in this match is anytime there's any type of a lull, the crowd starts chanting, "We want tables."
Yeah,
and
they
never get them. But
they get all sorts of other stuff, but they
chant,
never get
"We
tables.
want tables." They get 13 kendo sticks, and then they start chanting, "This is awesome."
Man, watching the match, this is probably one of the earliest times in a match where I hear "This is awesome" chant. It was like 2, maybe 3 minutes in where you get a "This is awesome" chant, and I'm like,
Biggie,
here we go.
Like spears Jimmy like off the apron almost through the cell, and I thought he was going to kill himself.
Oh, it was wild.
There were a few moments like that. But Paul, I think like you were saying, this has been a really, really good feud between these two. And I know we both kind of mentioned how, tag team wrestling is not quite where it should be in the WWE. That, they have a plethora of talent, so there's really no excuse for it. But these two guys have been going at it for, I guess almost a year at this point.
At this point, this is
the culmination. So
yeah.
At SummerSlam, the Usos defeated the New Day to regain the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. 2 weeks later, on SmackDown, the Usos earned the right to choose the stipulation for the New Day's championship match by defeating the New Day in a non-title match. Usos chose a street fight that occurred on the September 12th edition of SmackDown, where New Day defeated the Usos They regained the tag team championship, and so they've just kind of been trading.
Yeah, the really fun thing is that going into this match, both of these teams are 4-time tag team champions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it does feel like a culmination, like sort of the end of a feud is what it feels like.
Well, where do you go after Hell in a Cell?
Right, especially after something like this.
Yeah, and so, but essentially that's what this has all been leading toward. They keep trading the titles back and forth, and so the Usos invoke their championship rematch for Hell in a Cell on the September 26th episode after they defeated the Hype Bros. Thank God that tag team's over. But the New Day was seated in the front row on that episode, and they said, "You know what? We want to defend the SmackDown Tag Team Championships in a history-making match at Hell in a Cell. We want to be the first tag team championship defense inside Hell in a Cell." And this was the first tag team championship defense inside Hell in a Cell.
Now, for those of you who remember this would be where we get the creation of one of the most used GIFs of all time. And that's Big E in the front row eating popcorn. That's where that's come from.
I completely forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah, just they're all in the red jumpsuits, and he's so excited eating the popcorn. I mean, it's one of the most used ever. I use it all the time. I listen. I mean, Big E is just a gifable human.
Oh yeah, I honestly him and John Moxley, they seem to know what Tumblr is going to do.
Yeah,
before it happens, because they can hear the gifs, they can hear the memes being made. Well, the first time that
what does
Big
that
E
sound like?
Exactly like that.
Okay.
I think the very first time that Big E came out and straddled the rope, started gyrating, he knew the next day Twitter was going to be nothing but that gif. And nobody can convince me otherwise.
And I'm so glad he does that. Anyway, setting up the first tag team championship match inside Hell in a Cell was the New Day with that announcement. But this was not, however, the first tag team match inside Hell in a Cell. Not even the second. Does anybody remember what all of the tag team Hell in a Cell matches were?
I remember one of them off the top of my head.
All right, what you got?
DX versus the McMahons and Big Show was inside Hell in a Cell.
Never mind.
No, what were you going to say? You can't do that. Not on the show.
And the loser has to give the Big Show a rim job match?
Was that seriously a stipulation?
No, but both McMahons got their face planted up the Big Show's ass.
Right up his keister.
I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of brown on Shane's nose of that match.
There was a lot of that going on around that time.
It was that was that was sort of the immature DX return, right? It was the
Look, when I was 16, I was all for that.
No, I hated it.
At 29, I'm like, this is fucking stupid.
Right.
I hated it at 16. It was just dumb. It didn't make any I didn't appreciate any of the DX reunion stuff.
Although what I think
other than Vince McMahon loves cock.
My favorite part of that Hell in a Cell match is that we get one of my favorite things in all of wrestling, and that is JR talking about Triple H's Equilibrium.
Oh, are you referring to the amazing match where he takes what do they hit him with? He's like the knee block, and then he keeps swaying
until
and then Sean keeps blowing air at him, and he keeps shifting a little bit, and then Sean has to teeter the ring to make him stand up straight.
Well, they slam Triple H's head in a car door, which is so that was part of the story, is that he's bleeding and it's the whole equilibrium thing. Anyway, I love it. I think it's hysterical. But that's one of the tag team.
That's
Hell in a Cell
one
matches.
of the tag team Hell in a Cell matches. Paul, I figured you would definitely be
the
familiar
current
with
last
the first
match
one.
standing champ should know this.
Oh God, isn't it Steve Austin and the Undertaker versus Mankind and the Kane?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. The
Unbelievable.
very first tag team is the Tornado Tag Team match, and it was actually on Raw.
It was on Raw, yeah. And it ended because the Undertaker never shows up. So it's Austin berating everybody, and then the Undertaker comes from underneath the ring and beats the fuck out of Paul Bearer, and then that's just how it ends.
It's very good.
Raw ends with Undertaker beating Paul Bearer to death and Kane trying to break into the cell.
So that one was in '98. The DX versus McMahon's and the Big Show was at Unforgiven 2006. So there was one more tag team Hell in a Cell
Another
match.
tag team?
Before this? Before New Day?
Before New Day and Usos.
Okay, let me think about it.
It was at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view in 2009.
Oh, yes. The most historic of all of them.
Oh yeah, I automatically know what it is.
When you
now
say that,
said
the only match I can remember was Undertaker and CM Punk, and it was like 10 minutes, and it was embarrassing.
Is that is Legacy around during that time?
Yes, sir.
Is it Legacy versus DX?
It is Legacy versus DX.
Hey, how about that?
They had a really good match at like Unbreakable, I think
Yeah.
is what it's called. That match was awesome. That's a match where they put
Unbreakable is that a TNA pay-per-view?
but in 2009 they did like a submission
Breaking
one.
Point.
Was it Breaking Point?
Breaking
yeah, right.
Point.
Something like that.
That's the one where they put Shawn in the sharpshooter and like a chin lock through the railing, and he tapped out in the stands, and it was like submissions count anywhere.
Yeah, I loved that.
And I'm like, oh, two guys who don't do submissions versus two guys whose fathers both did submissions.
That's
I
really
remember that match
interesting.
was amazing, but their SummerSlam match was terrible.
I really liked Legacy. I liked the whole, pretty much. You give Cody Rhodes the spotlight, I'm in for it.
Yeah.
But I actually really liked Ted DiBiase's work, and not just because he's from Baton Rouge. Hey yo,
I did not know that.
Oh yeah,
Is that true?
yeah,
Yes.
it is.
Huh.
He is.
Wow.
So actually, we were at a house show one time, and
The Marine.
Yeah, the Marine.
No, the Marine 2.
That's right. Was it
we-
two? He's
Were you with me at this house show?
Yeah.
It was in the River Center. He got on the mic and was just like, "Hey, a lot of people don't know this. I was actually born here. Love being home. Good to see you. All that kind of stuff."
wild.
Do you
So, yeah.
remember who his opponent was?
I don't.
At the house show?
Yeah.
Simon Dean.
No. He was long gone. Jinder Mahal.
Oh, you sure was. Sure was, because there was the whole USA thing.
Future
Yeah,
WWE
both guys who are
champion
from
Jinder
America.
Mahal.
No, Jinder Mahal's Canadian.
That's right. I think he's from Ottawa.
Wow. Okay, so we've had that's 4, or is that's 3 of them before this
That's
one?
3.
This
And so
makes the
this
fourth
would
one.
make number 4, but the first championship tag team match.
That's a good distinction.
So we talked about them getting up to the announcement. The following week, the two teams did meet in the ring for a verbal confrontation where the New Day claimed to have made the SmackDown tag team division relevant, and that their matches with the Usos have been the best matches on their respective shows. And honestly, I think that's hard to argue. And, we touched on this a little bit. The Usos were one of those teams that were getting incredibly stale over on Raw, in my opinion, as their super babyface, bright color, face-painted John Cena, whatever.
I mean, it was boring the minute they debuted, and then they got face paint and the Samoan War chants, which was, oh yeah, the entrance is great, and now they're gonna go wrestle.
Right, and so they hop over to SmackDown, and they get a desperately needed repackage. And so now they're just a pair of hard-hitting, new attitude Samoans that are able to show off some of these hidden talents that the face paint didn't allow them to come through.
I would say that this, I don't necessarily want to call it a gimmick. I mean, it is, but I think this is one of the better repackagings in years.
Agreed.
Oh, it was great because for me, it felt like they just appeared as this new thing. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
And it felt natural. It made
It felt
sense.
genuine.
Yeah, it felt very real.
And I like how they actually started taking steps to differentiate themselves from each other. Because before it was like, ooh, twin magic. Even though they wear different tights and have different face paint. Twin magic. Now it's like different haircuts, different like ring styles, different like facial hair.
And they could cut a promo.
Yes, they can talk.
I mean, Uso promos are awesome.
Right.
So I more importantly, they're having the best matches of their career. I mean, the stars aligned for them in 2017 because the top tag team on SmackDown when they arrived was none other than the extremely talented, extremely charismatic New Day. Mm-hmm. So you got Kofi Kingston, who's been there for a while, showing off how talented he is.
2006.
Yeah, Xavier Woods and Big E, arguably the most talented guys ever to be paired in a stable, these three. A lot of times, stables are formed because you've got the younger and the greener talent that needs to be developed. And then the other guys who can carry the weight while elevating whoever needs the help. But this is absolutely not the case with the New Day.
Well, like when they initially all three of them in the ring talking, like, oh, man, what's going to happen here? And they go away for a couple of months, and they come back as preachers. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It was strange. Yeah.
Like, no, seriously, because when all three of them in the ring, all wearing, like, suits and ties, like, oh, man, we're not taking this crap anymore. We're going to make something for ourselves. Month later, oh, man, we're going to praise Jesus. Like, what the fuck is this?
Well, they were originally supposed to be, like, this huge heel group. And they got so over. Like,
well, when they first started, everyone's like, oh, man, it's like Nation of Domination.
Well, and then, we talk about how successful the repackaging of the Usos was, but, I mean, this New Day group turned in from something that was very silly and weird at the beginning into what is going to be...
power of positivity!
Right. But now, this is going to be a Hall of Fame stable by the end.
Yeah.
Easy.
And I love, you'll get this one dickhead on Twitter who's like, oh, I fucking hate the New Day, break them up. Like, no. They are the biggest merch sellers in the history of the company. They are not breaking them up.
Okay, so
soon.
from a business perspective, I can see what you're saying about not breaking them up. But
and they're
from
over.
a fan perspective, I am still waiting on that Big E turns on Kofi run. I want that.
That would
to
be
happen.
a whole lot of fun to watch.
But that's the thing. All three of these guys could be having main event runs as singles competitors.
Kofi did.
As evident by Kofi's
Kofi
eventual
had like an
WWE
8-month title run.
Exactly.
And it was really
fucking
good.
awesome.
It was really good, yeah.
And have you seen Consequence Creed stuff over on TNA?
Man,
I mean,
let me tell you something.
Extremely talented.
I think Xavier Woods is so underrated.
Extremely.
I mean, so underrated. Also, he is one of the more in shape. And listen, in a business full of people that are wildly insane,
He's
like,
always
shape-wise.
been ripped.
But yeah, he's just one of the more likable people, and like in real life, and he's just, I mean, talk about a versatile guy, right? All the skills and talents he has, not just in the ring but outside of the ring. It creates basically this stable of these three guys that, like he said, are some of the most talented guys to be in a group together.
I just remember in 2016 where he had something like 3 matches, and I'm like, what's going on with Creed? He's like never wrestling, and then all of a sudden, hey guys, I just got my PhD. I'm like, what? He took like 9 months off to go get his PhD, so he just did like all the big pay-per-views, and he went to a few televisions. That's about all he did, and he got a PhD.
So we talked about how at the time WWE was in a tag team desert. They were just seemingly incapable of booking proper builds to show off their tag teams, and they had a ton of talent. They straight up refused to let some of their most talented teams. I mean, you had guys like the Ascension, Fashion Police. Like, what are they doing?
Well, the Ascension just got released from the company.
It's insane because they weren't being used.
No,
so this is why this match is so important. It's a beacon of hope for what is still, in my opinion, an underutilized, dying tag team division in WWE.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we couldn't agree more. And this is actually during the point, I mean, we're 2017, right, where NXT is
like nothing but tag teams.
Is having a hell of a time with tag teams, right? And that's part of why
tag team tournaments.
Right, and this is part of why NXT became so loved by the fans, because it gave them what they had been desperately wanting, right? And so, even now when you have some really incredible tag teams that are being underutilized, this match feels sort of like not on the same level, but similar to our Trish and Lita and our Charlotte,
exactly,
Becky, Sasha, like these groundbreaking, glass ceiling shattering matches, only because this is a time period where WWE really has gone away from the tag team, at least in any really serious, important role.
Well, it always feels like let's do more tag teams, but instead of building tag teams, let's just take 2 popular people and stick them together, and we're going to merge their fucking songs together, and it's going to sound like shit. And we're going to give them a stupid nickname that we pretended the fans came up with, we just couldn't think of anything better.
It seems like tag team wrestling is an afterthought.
I think that's the best way to describe it.
It's just frustrating because they'll start building up these teams, and then they'll either break them up, they'll be written off TV, they'll be released, or they'll go back to NXT, and it's just really frustrating.
But enough complaining about that. Let's talk about this match.
Yeah, man.
The pay-per-view intro package. And that's what one of the fun things about this match being first up is, we go back and watch it. It's like, okay, we'll just hit play on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's first.
The intro package for the whole Hell in a Cell 2017 reminds me of like the early 2000s hype video packages. It was really good.
Yeah.
This is the year that we got the demon versus the dragon poster. It was ridiculous.
It was.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I mean, you're talking the 20th anniversary of Hell in a Cell, and it really feels like they went all out as far as production was concerned.
And we're still, we haven't quite hit the red cell phase yet,
No,
so we're
that'll be the next
doing
year.
all right. We're doing all right. But you're right. That's where it starts. And what better place to have blood feuds be settled inside of Hell in a Cell than at Little Caesars Arena?
Pizza flying across the ring the whole match.
Pizza.
I mean, they did have those long breadsticks. Oh, I'm sorry, those were Kendos.
Kendos.
Oh, there's a couple of rainbow ones that were pretty cool.
Yeah. Just to kind of focus us in, like we said, Detroit, Michigan, it is the opener of the night. And on commentary, we have Tom Phillips, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton, and referee Mr. Ryan Tran, with Mike Kyoto on the outside watching the chain.
So this is the first time we've had Ryan as a referee.
First ref appearance for Mr. Ryan Tran. He's kind of a regular now, right?
Oh, yeah. In 2017, he was like kind of new.
Yeah, he was newish then. But it's important to remember in this match that Kofi Kingston's actually not a part of it. Like, he's on the outside watching the whole thing. So we get Xavier Woods and Big E versus the Usos. And the entrances start, right? And the New Day comes down first. And Corey Graves says, talking about Xavier Woods and Big E, says, I'm just never prepared for guys with a trombone swiveling their hips before a fight.
How do you mentally prepare yourself for that? Like,
right.
I mean, I guess you could sort of think maybe that's why they have an edge over their opponents, right? This is like a psychological warfare.
Yeah, it does feel that way. Like they know how to have fun, but the second the bell rings, their business. And,
oh, yeah.
And that's a really interesting, sort of play.
And there's something more evident about that than as soon as the bell rings, all four men grab weapons.
Right?
Right. You know what I love, and this is just something as a general thought that I was thinking as all teams enter the room. The room. Oh my God, the ring.
I mean, technically it is a room.
One big
room.
room.
They are in a large room. The New Day gets into the ring, and they're wearing these really great black and sort of purple tights, and they're up, down.
They match the ring ropes.
Right. The ring ropes are blue, and it's October, so they've got the pink rope in the middle. And then the Usos come down, and they're wearing these awesome red pants, like super bright red with the white shoes. And I am just thinking, these guys, like, it's aesthetically incredibly pleasing. Like, it just looks really cool to me. Like, just visually, it's awesome.
They're so heel, they're wearing the other brand's colors.
Yeah, in a redless land, here they come. But New Day is super over in Detroit, and they cut this rare pre-match promo, and it's pretty good.
It's fucking great.
But you just don't see pre-match promos very often.
Right, and it speaks to,
Not Hell in a Cell. Anyway.
Right. We just talked about how, they're kind of playing around, and then when the bell rings, their business. During that promo, Big E is about to do his, because New Day rocks chant and start the chant, and instead he stops midway through and makes one final statement about how basically he's going to kick their ass. And it shows you how serious the New Day was taking this match and this rivalry and how important it was to them, which made it that much more important to the fans.
What I love about it is we said this before, how the New Day will come out and be these very comedic, silly characters. Bell rings, Xavier is a fucking beast.
Yeah.
Just absorbing headbutts, elbows, and kendo sticks. Like, fuck no. And then Big E is an unstoppable monster in this.
And he's got this nasty look on his face.
Oh, my God. Like, look, all four men do suicide dives in the first 2 minutes. And then, I said it before, Big E spears Jey Uso off the apron. And he does that all the time, but not in Hell in a Cell, because they hit one of the beams and the entire cell shifts.
Oh, yeah.
About 2 inches.
So, actually, that hit, and you can go back and watch it, Big E's head just scrapes the side of the cell all the way down. And so he later said in an interview or a backstage segment, he said like he felt like it was taking a cheese grater to his face.
Awesome. It's one thing when we hear like the commentary team say that, like to kind of make it more grotesque, but to hear a wrestler say that it feels that way,
Yeah.
it just makes me squirm just a little bit. So the match starts and both teams immediately go running at weapons, right? And like you said, a couple of things that happened before the dive. Xavier Woods throws a really beautiful spinning forearm that hits one of the Usos. I don't know because one of them has a chain on, but at this point I haven't quite figured out that's how I'm going to tell them apart. So
aren't you a twin? Don't you have these like natural twin telling apart powers?
I do, but my twin sister is a girl, which makes it very easy, and she's also about 4'9", which makes it very easy as well.
I'll help you out. Jay is the one that has the sides of his head shaved, so he has kind of like this weird new age mullet. Jimmy has just like full hair. They also have different facial hair.
Well, another thing that makes it more difficult is this is a tornado tag team match, which, by the way, can we have more tornado tag team matches,
Boy,
please?
do I love a tornado tag.
I remember playing old school WWE Shut Your Mouth, and anytime I played a tag team match, I would always choose tornado tag rules.
Tornado tag hardcore match in the boiler room.
Yes.
You immediately throw your opponent into the boiler, it explodes, they fly off the balcony. Rob Van Dam, 5-star frog splash, you beat him in 30 seconds.
It immediately makes it more interesting.
That was my strategy, and it worked every single time.
See, and for me, I'm going to throw it to SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, where I'm doing tornado tag team matches, but I'm going from the backstage area with the big 18-wheeler where you're throwing them into electricity, to the electrical boards, into Times Square, where you just jump off of Times Square and pin them pretty quickly.
Or you could jump out of a helicopter?
Yeah.
Please bring this back.
Let me ask you, Paul, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, better or worse than 2K20?
2K20? Well, in 2K20, if you throw a punch, the game crashes. So.
Ooh, so fun.
Oh, it's great.
So
they've already stopped doing updates on it.
Oh, my gosh.
They've already just abandoned the game.
One of the weapons that gets pulled out very early on in this match is a steel chain. And Xavier Woods does a tag team move where he drops a fist.
Oh, yeah, he does like a wheelbarrow fist drop with the chain wrapped around his hand. It's
so
awesome.
good. So good. But then that leads us to Big E doing the dive outside of the ring where he, scrapes his head against the cell. And that's where our sort of This Is Awesome chant starts. And we're 2 minutes in.
Yeah.
We're 2 minutes in.
Yeah, and then we get a We Want Tables chant, which Xavier responds by using 3 trombones.
Right?
Which Byron Saxton calls the first one Francesca 2000 Turbo. I forget that they named them. Yeah. And at this point, I guess we were on our third or fourth one for Xavier. So Francesca 2000 Turbo. That's pretty good.
Smashes it on Jay.
And
what's he going to do next? He hands him another trombone. And he smashes it. Oh, what now?
To which Corey Graves says there is a strategically placed plethora of trombones.
And I'm like, okay, going to go third trombone. Nope, cowbell. All right, get the cowbell out.
More cowbell.
And what happens next? A fucking gong.
Fucking gong. Dude,
where
MK reference. We get a Mortal Kombat reference in the middle of the Hell in a Cell.
Because he says... It has begun.
Yes.
Right? That's what Xavier says when he strikes the gong, which, by the way, is completely 100% on brand for him and that group.
It's fantastic.
I forgot to mention, though, when the cowbell comes out, he says, somebody call Bruce Pritchard.
I mean, so this is sort of a really interesting part about the New Day that a few teams and few people really can pull off is that they're still they're being sort of that silly gimmick, but they're doing some very serious damage. And it's really, really fun to watch. It gets to a really, really cool part once they go out of the ring, where Xavier Woods is outside of the ring, and he gets put into the corner, and
holding him there and taunting Kofi while they're battering him with kendo sticks is vicious.
Right. Jimmy looks at Kofi and just says, "Get your ass back!" Right, and he hits the side of the cage with the kendo stick.
Yeah, then they do it's like the running hip attack into the cell
while they have the kendo stick over.
Yeah, holding it on his chin. It's evil.
Yeah, they do something that I don't know if I had seen prior to this match. And I know we've seen it a few times since, but trapping someone in the corner of the cell by using those kendo sticks.
Yeah, this is the first time I recall something like that.
Yeah, and they do it first to Xavier, obviously, and we'll talk about it in a second when it comes up later. But man, that running hip attack was just
shades of Umaga right there.
Yeah. I mean, it's their cousin.
Brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it definitely made me cringe, and I know it was actually I was referencing earlier an interview where. Big E mentioned that hitting the cell hurts, but in that same, it was actually a watch along. Now I remember. There's a watch along that you can watch with the Usos and the New Day watching the match, and they do commentary over it.
They've done a few of those.
Yeah,
Trish and Lita rewatched their main event from Raw. Those are really interesting.
That was great.
And Xavier says, "Oh, yep, this hurt a lot."
Big E comes out to try to start saving Xavier Woods from the side, and he ends up battling with Jimmy Uso on the apron, and it leads to Big E doing a Uranagi to Jimmy, and he's getting thrown from the apron to the ground, but just in time, Xavier slides underneath Jimmy Uso to where Uso lands on his knees like a backbreaker.
It's like,
well, it's like he didn't quite get there in time to pull it off completely, but he was there, and it did happen. But I totally had written down that was Jey Uso. I guess I may have gotten him confused.
Well, at this point, I think it's Jimmy because I think he's wearing a chain.
I wrote Jay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
then they
it's Jey.
said Jimmy Uso. I'm like,
oh, okay. I could be wrong.
Listen,
Here we go. We knew it was going to happen.
There's a lot of action. Sometimes it's difficult to keep up with which one of the brothers it is. But for the most part, if you really just pay attention to the commentary, they'll shout, "Oh my God, devastating backbreaker to Jimmy Uso!" I'm like, all right, Jimmy Uso.
I do think the way the rules work is that if someone on Twitter reaches out, or we can go back and rewatch the match, and they say that it was in fact Jimmy Uso that took this backstabber, then I should become the new last match standing champion.
That is not how that works.
Well, as the current last match standing champion, that will never happen.
But there's a segment after this where they drag Jimmy, I suppose, to the corner, and it's sort of a cringeworthy moment here because Big E says, "You going to jail, Uth?"
Oh yeah, and Kofi's yelling the same thing.
Yeah, he sure is.
As a matter of fact.
Well, a year later, he would get into an altercation with some cops that you're being drunk and disorderly at a bar.
Well, things happen.
But no, I'm pretty sure it's Jay. But
it was Jay.
They corner in the corner of the cell. They place those 4 kendo sticks, sort of in a similar fashion as earlier. But they completely corner him into he's completely stuck. I don't know how he would get out of that.
One at the shins, one at the hips, one at covered block his arms, and one literally in his mouth.
Yeah, they do a really awesome visual where they sort of zoom in and get a very up close shot of his face with the kendo stick in his mouth.
They do an up down to Jimmy, and then right before they go for the pin, Xavier throws the remnants of Francesca 3000 at him.
Sure.
Oh my God, that was brutal.
Hits him in the face too, and he can't get his hands up.
Yeah, and he I remember on the watch along, he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't know why I did that."
It looked cool on camera.
Oh, it was awesome.
I have to apologize for that one.
It was totally an accident, but it was nasty.
I don't know if it was an accident or he didn't. He wasn't thinking. Oh, he's probably just like, "Oh, this would be funny."
Yeah. I wonder if he was actually trying to hit his face, or if he was trying to maybe just hit it sort of.
He hit him right
torso.
in the face.
Oh yeah, no, he definitely hit him right in the face.
There's just the New Day just looks so vicious at this point.
Yeah,
it's just like, good Lord, I didn't know they had this in them.
It's been really interesting because we sort of saw this how they were able to get kind of hardcore in the street fight, but they've taken that and turned up the volume by quite a bit. And it's no longer necessarily just this is a wrestling match. This is what Hell in a Cell is for. And so you got 2 teams that are stepping their game up and doing their best, not just to win the match, but to really put an end to this rivalry.
And it comes a really scary moment where Jey Uso has Big E on his shoulders, and then he gets speared off the apron by Jimmy. It's scary. Really, really scary moment.
Well, that space in between the ring and the cell is
3.5 feet.
A lot.
Maybe?
Right. And so that impact where Big E, and he does, sort of like Graves says, he does hit the support beam. So it's not like he's got the chain link to just fall back into and sort of bounce off of. He hits that support beam.
And Corey just shouts, "The entire ring just shifted about 2 feet."
Right.
It's
scary. And then he does it on the other side, and it shifts another way.
Yeah.
But Big E's belly to bellies in this match.
Oh, so good.
It makes me wish he would have that singles run. Just turn on Kofi already.
I love that because they go to attack him with each with a kendo stick, catches him belly to belly, And then another guy runs out, another belly to belly, drops the straps, and he just starts like pounding his chest. Like, here we fucking go.
Oh, listen, Big E throws some of the best belly to bellies in the business. They just look fantastic.
He takes about 8 super kicks and a double splash.
Yeah, and kicks out. People thought that was going to be the end of it.
It's like, holy shit.
But it wasn't. And so after that happens, the Usos go back outside of the ring, and this is when, like you thought you'd seen some intense stuff. Yeah. And then the Usos say, hold my beer, right?
They handcuff Xavier and hang him from the ring post.
Yeah.
And a moment that I'm like, this is a little uncomfortable.
I was not happy with it. Yeah, I would not have gone there in this match, but
I didn't really mind it. Ultimately because they already used the kendo sticks on it, so it was just sort of it was an
escalation of what was going on before. Yeah,
I mean John Cena and Randy Orton did the exact same spot 10 years earlier.
Right, that's true.
In a last man standing match. Kane and
Shane
McMahon did it like 5 years before them.
We don't have to take it there, so it is what it is.
I understand. I completely understand why it might be unsettling. But for me, it made sense, and it's a really cool visual, and it had the effect that they wanted. I think where Xavier, who plays sort of that. The guy that sort of takes the beating, he plays that part really well.
He takes a hell of a beating.
And he does.
Well, that's the thing. It's like in the watch-along, they do reference this part, and he said, he had his hands tied up over his head onto the ring post, and he said he kept trying to move in so he could kind of take it a little bit more comfortable,
side, right?
But he wasn't able to. He said, if I would have kept sliding, I would have dislocated my shoulder, so I just kind of had to take it.
He's basically being crucified right there. He can't move. And his ribs are completely exposed.
Right, and that's where Tom Phillips says the Usos are redefining brutality inside Hell in a Cell.
They really, really were.
Paul, let me ask you a very, very important question here.
Yes.
Did you happen to hear the RoboCop reference?
Yes, I did. Big E is going after Jey Uso like ED209 going after RoboCop. RoboCop is my favorite movie of all time, so yes, I caught that reference.
So a quick shout out. I mean, this has to be the first time where one of our patrons was mentioned in our match.
Exactly.
Mr. and Mrs. RoboCop. I mean, there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't be more excited. That's pretty fantastic.
I guess that makes Big E like their son, or maybe at least their grandson. I don't know the ages of them, so I'm assuming that's at least the son, possibly the grandson.
Well, I think what the most important work that we're doing here on this podcast is really creating that family tree. We did it with Quadruple H, and now with Mr. and Mrs. RoboCop.
Yeah, for Quadruple H, we established that Hercules was single H, Hulk Hogan was double H. Of course, Hunter Hearst Helmsley is Triple H, and then his father, Quadruple H.
Just to catch you up to speed. Once this match, Xavier almost becomes a non-factor for the rest of the match. After that, of course, like how could he come back from that? He breaks up a pin.
And he starts doing headbutts.
Right.
And just absorbing more kendo stick shots. Like, oh my God.
Because he has to come in and break up the pin from Big E. Because Big E puts a stretch muffler, which, by the way,
yes.
When was the last time you saw that, and have you seen it since?
The Brock Lock.
Brock Lesnar, the Brock Lock, exactly.
Brock Lesnar actually used that move in a match recently.
Did he?
But it was the first time that we'd seen the move probably since this match.
The first time he'd done it since 2004.
Right?
The stretch muffler.
Love it.
Oh, so good.
You can only do it if your neck is huge, like Big E and Brock Lesnar.
Right. And he only has it in for maybe 5 or 6 seconds before he gets a super kick to the face.
If you do it from the ground like he's doing it, it's actually incredibly painful.
I bet.
It's whenever they pick you up that it's like, oh, yeah, my knee's being bent the way it's meant to be bent.
But you're right. So Xavier Woods comes in and he starts fighting with his handcuffs on. He's throwing headbutts. He's trying his best to do what he can. But eventually it's too much.
Saving the pin, though, when he came in and jumped the pin, he was still handcuffed.
Yeah.
So he pretty much just came in, and if you've ever seen that video of like how animals eat, you ever seen the how animals eat video?
I've never seen it.
It's just like the sealers go, whoop. Oh, that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like. He like dove head first.
I have seen that. I remember that.
And he just broke up the pin. It looked really impressive for me, and here's why. So you saw the beautiful, beautiful super kick that got Big E down, and Big E was out. Like, OUT out. He was not kicking out.
He took like 2 super kicks and then double splashes.
Exactly.
Like you're not getting up.
Exactly. And a lot of times in tag team matches like this, you have a partner that's coming to break up the pin, but there's not enough trust built up. And so whoever's taking the pin, usually you could tell they were probably going to kick out anyway. That is not the case here. He had 100% confidence in Xavier Woods, despite going through what he just went through, to break up the pin. And I really took note of that because I was really impressed.
Oh, I think it's super important. And the way, and this is sort of how, another way Xavier plays that role so well, is that he just throws his body, like you said, throws his body onto Uso and Big E. And you can tell from his face, like, it took everything that he had left. And that's why we get what happens next, which is basically the Usos finishing the job.
Oh, God. Although they start beating him down with kendo sticks, and they do double splash, but this time with chairs.
Yep. And that's how you get the 1, 2, 3. And the Usos become 5-time tag team champions. And this is a 22-minute match that was brutal from start to end.
Yeah, it's an easy watch too. It does not feel like a long match.
No. We obviously we watched it a couple of times before this, and it almost feels quicker every time you watch it.
Yeah, well, it's so well paced.
Yeah.
Because there's no real downtime. And look, we did our watch through of WrestleMania 4 recently. That's a 3.5 hour show. It took us 3 seconds to get through it because, good Lord, there are 5-minute matches in that show that feel like an eternity.
Yeah, that felt like putting in work. And this felt like a breeze. This was just a whole lot of fun. So, this is just one of those lightning in a bottle, really just fun matches that really took these tag teams to a level that they hadn't really reached yet. It sort of added a dimension to their characters. And it's a rivalry that we still see sort of off and on from time to time, and it's always good because they're magic in the ring together. But for this time period, this was a really good way to sort of end their feud at this point.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So I got to ask, favorite moments. There's a lot.
Francesca 2 and 3000, RoboCop, the scariest spear I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I really loved the kind of tribute to the Samoan wrestling whenever we get Xavier down in the corner and you get the hip attack in the corner.
I think that's my favorite as well.
I really love that.
Watch this, Kofi! Watch this, Kofi! Get back! Bam! Like, oh.
It's nasty.
Yeah, this match is brutal. It lived up to the Hell in the Cell sort of hype and expectation.
It's like I said. Like we live in an era where we get 2 to 3 Hell in a Cells every year just because, hey guys, it's October.
And there's a moment where I think it's Todd Phillips who says these are 2 of the greatest tag teams on SmackDown Live, if not in the industry, raising the bar of competition inside the demonic structure. And I think that's the best way to describe this match.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the level that these 2 guys go, the rivalry they have, and putting it inside Hell in a Cell changes everything. And this is a time where Hell in a Cell is really watered down.
It is because we get sometimes 3 of them on one show.
But Hell in a Cell, this is the best way to use it.
Exactly.
This is the best way to use it.
You use it for the blow-off between for like either 2 people or 2 teams in this instance where like, okay, well, they had a street fight and nothing was settled. How do you settle this? You do it in Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I think you have to. So let me ask you guys this question. Why does this match deserve to be on the list of the 100 greatest of all time? Because it's a match that you could argue is a spot fest and things like that. But what about it makes it the greatest wrestling match of all time, or one of the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time?
I think for the time period that it's in, being sort of the diamond in the rough and the beacon of hope for tag team wrestling and honestly, for today as well. I still think back fondly on this match 2 years later, and I feel like I will 5 years from now.
Oh, yeah. For me, this match ranks up in a similar place as Undertaker and CM Punk did, where it's like, oh, these guys clearly have a chip on their shoulder, and they are going to go out and they're going to prove points with their bodies in ways that – and they elevated Hell in a Cell 20 years later where we didn't think you could elevate it anymore.
Yeah.
And
there's some real innovation
and
here.
they don't go outside the cell. They don't climb the cell. They don't break through the roof. They don't fly the top. They just beat the ever-living shit out of each other.
And I'll be honest. Complete honesty here. Hell in a Cell is probably my least favorite match type. It doesn't really add anything for me, but this match is what breaks the mold for that.
Oh, I agree. When I was a kid, it was my favorite, but like since 2009, I've been like, oh, joy, they've ruined my favorite match.
You know what's interesting is, and this is sort of speaking to your point, Paul, how they didn't have to go outside of the cell. They didn't have to do anything crazy that really broke down the rules of Hell in a Cell. Because later in the night with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon, that's what they do.
They dove off the top.
And what match are we talking about?
We're talking about the opening match on the card.
Yeah.
So, where are we going to rank it?
Man, we're 21 matches in. Number 1, as we said earlier, in case you haven't heard already, Okada Omega.
In Osaka.
Yeah, so that leaves my first question is going to be, now that we're in Season 2, is does it make the top 20?
I think so.
Just keep in mind, number 21 at this point is TLC 1. So Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys. Does this eclipse that match?
I would rank it above that.
Landon?
I don't know that I would, and here's why.
I could tell from the look on your face.
We've talked at length about why it deserves a spot in the top 100, but here's the thing: we haven't done 100 matches yet. So I do think that this is going to rank, in a decent spot on a list of 100. But I don't know if it's a top 20 match, and I don't know that I would put it over TLC, because TLC is actually a really good thing to put this match up against, because it's a tag team match. It's a tornado tag team match. It's a tag team match with some brutal, brutal spots. There are more spots in that match, and in my opinion, there's more talent. Just not only because of who's in the ring, but the amount of people in the ring. Right?
There's more people involved in the match. You start with six.
And there's more of a story kind of going on to tell, because you have these three people, these three tag teams who have these illustrious histories. I mean, at the point when they make it to the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania, and then later SummerSlam, they have their established brands. We talked about the Concerto versus the 3D through the table versus the ladders. So. For me, TLC is just too grand for this match to necessarily hop over, but not to say it doesn't deserve a spot.
Well, see, I disagree with that, because I felt that TLC kind of met my expectations, but it's exceeded my expectations, even on like the third watch in the last week. And I felt this had a more coherent story behind it.
Well, I think story is the word I'm looking for. I know, Landon, you just said that you think the story was better maybe in TLC in the match itself because of how established those three teams were. But for me, I feel like the story was better here because it's a rivalry. These guys have done everything they could think of to do, so they can only go into the one match type, story-wise, where this is how it. This is the only way where we can finish it. So these are two teams that have history together. For me, TLC won. Like all three of those teams do have history together, and I get it. But for me, it doesn't mean necessarily as much. Where Edge, Christian, Hardy Boys, and Dudley Boys, when I watch that match, I don't think they're trying to figure out who the best tag team in the world is. I think they're trying to figure out who's best with their weapons. And in this match, it feels to me like New Day and Usos are really trying to one-up each other and decide who really is the best team around. So for me, I would put it over TLC 1. I'd probably put it over Kurt Angle and Shane, and leave it somewhere around that 19 number in between CM Punk, Undertaker.
I
and
actually
Kurt Angle and Shane.
Put it right above Kurt and Shane.
Yeah, that's where I would have it as well. Yeah. Number 19.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can definitely see the argument for it. I would, if we're following down the path of the storyline element and the culmination, part, I definitely see how that piece would put it above Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. So I think 19's a fair spot.
And you're okay putting it above TLC 1?
Not particularly, but understanding that this is a part of the show. There's 3 of us, and 2 of us are in agreement, and I can certainly understand your argument. So 19, I'm comfortable with it. We've done this before.
Yes, we have done this.
Yeah, we have. I feel
we've all
like
done it to each other.
I'm about to say, I think we've been to a point now where each one of us has sort of taken that fall, sort of just giving in to the other two, just because this is really hard to do.
Yes, it's very hard.
I would love to hear what our listeners think about this match, and if they think that, if anyone's with me, please let me know, because I do feel like it deserves a spot on the list, but I would put it at 21, or I guess, yeah, it's 21 or 22.
Yeah, it would be 22.
22 at this point.
And we would put it 19, so it would be above number 22, which is TLC 1, and then Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. So that's kind of, I guess, is that official? Is that where things stand at this moment?
As the champion, I decreeth so.
Decreeth?
Try to sound royal. Let's be honest, I'm probably going to lose the next trivia challenge.
Well, maybe you'll get a pie in your face then. We'll see what happens. But listen, I really, really enjoyed this. If you haven't seen this match, do yourself a favor, because it's completely worth your time.
Yeah, it is on YouTube in full length for the WWE's official channel. It's also on their Facebook page. So you don't need the network to watch. You have to go Daily Motion. If you have a Facebook account or even a YouTube account, you can watch it.
Yeah. So there you go. We are 22 episodes in now, 2 episodes into season 2. This list gets harder every single time, every single episode. But that's so part of the fun. That's so part of the fun. So, if you were listening, thank you for joining us along for the ride. I can only hope that you never experience being handcuffed and hit with kendo sticks.
No, it hurts.
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine. But, I don't know where we're going to be next week. Actually, I do know where we're going to be next week because, let's see. This will be released after the Christmas episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one as well. But once we are back with our regular episodes, we'll have episode 23 for you. Who knows where in the world it's going to be? Who knows what year it's going to be? But we do know it's going to be one of the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. And until then, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Landon.
And this is Last Match Standing.